All right. Well, everybody, welcome to the Mikestand. Today, of course, is Tuesday, December the 23rd, um, 2025. So hopefully everybody's having a good day today. We're, we're basically a couple days away from Christmas. So hopefully everybody's, getting ready to have some good time with their families. Um, we're going to, of course, give people a chance to come in before we get started. Um, Friendly reminder to everybody, of course, if you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the streams, if we get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the question to the best of my ability. Well, with that being said, like I said, we're just going to give people a chance to come in before we get started here. Let me see. Hey, Metal. Yeah, I sent you the link to the I don't I sent you a couple links earlier, or I sent you a link earlier on the one movie we were talking about. I think I'd give you a chance to watch it. Hey, Net Shuri. I can finally see the words on the screen on my new phone. Anyways, hello, Mike. Hey there, Net Shuri. Thanks for popping in. All right, so with that, I've got a couple people in here, so I guess we can get right into what we're going to talk about tonight then. So tonight, I've got a couple of articles I'm going to go over, one from MeTV Tunes and one from Bounding into Comics. The first one's talking about basically how the Grinch Stole Christmas came about, how Chuck Jones and Dr. Seuss made How the Grinch Stole Christmas. So we're going to look at that, and then we're also going to talk about there's some news coming out, I guess, on season 2 of Creature Commandos. They're planning on adding Captain Atom to the cast. So we'll be looking at that. We'll be getting caught up on all the latest in terms of pro wrestling. We'll be looking at what happened on last night's Raw. Looking ahead to tonight's NXT. And then we'll wrap things up, of course, with this day in each history. And, of course, one last friendly reminder before we get started here. If you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, I'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. That goes for both my YouTube and my Rumble subscribers. So, with that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started then? Let me just go grab the first article here that we're going to look over. Actually, before I do continue on here, let me take care of something real quick. I'm going to put some music on for a moment. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. All right, sorry about that. Anyways, let's get going here. Let's get going with this article then. All right. All right, how Chuck Jones and Dr. Seuss made How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Jones had wanted to turn one of Dr. Seuss's stories into a cartoon for a long time, and now the Christmas stars were aligning. Now, mind you, of course, this is not necessarily the first time these two gentlemen have worked together. I think they worked together back during World War II, bringing about the Private Snafu short for the U.S. military, the training films, Private Snafu. So, well, anyways, article published earlier today by me, TV Toon staff. So let's get into this. Let's get into this. During World War II, Chuck Jones and Theodore Geisel, aka Dr. Seuss, were assigned to work together for the American Department of the 1st Motion Picture Unit of the Army, producing propaganda and training films for the military. The two worked together to create the Private Snafu cartoon series, which I just mentioned, which I'm also currently watching right now as part of my cartoon watchings. And this collaboration marked the beginning of a lifelong friendship. Years after the war, in 1965, Jones heard through the animation grapevine that A Charlie Brown Christmas was in the works, and this got Jones thinking about what his ideal Christmas cartoon television special would be. And that reminded him of his old buddy, Dr. Seuss, who happened to have a Christmas storybook called How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Jones had wanted to turn one of Dr. Seuss's stories into a cartoon for a long time, and now the Christmas stars were aligning. There was one problem. Jones recalled in an interview with the Television Academy, Seuss was anti-Hollywood, very much because when he left right after the war, they pirated a lot of his stuff and took his credits off features. He did some documentaries, one of which won an Academy Award, but, in parentheses there, somebody else took it. So he was pretty sour on that. So I told him this was another field, this is television. Now Jones had no experience in television, and The Grinch was his first non-theatrical cartoon short project, but his insistence was enough to convince Dr. Seuss to agree to the project. Jones raced off to create the storyboards with Maurice Noble. Now, Maurice Noble, I know that name's been kind of around. I think he did some work for MGM, I believe. And began pitching the TV special to sponsors to get the show on the road. The second most important thing after getting Dr. Seuss on board was getting Boris Karloff, who served as the legendary narrator for the movie. Jones had been a longtime fan of Karloff's narrations of Rudyard Kipling's books. Quote, he had this lovely, wonderful voice. Everybody thought of him as being a villain. Jones shook his head, and he was so dear. He was so dear when he read it. Okay, Yeah. Okay. He was so dear when he read it. He really gave accent to each one and each note. The narrator was important there. Unquote. Boris Karloff, who was also known for his portrayal of, I believe it was Frankenstein in the horror genre as well. They had MGM and a sponsor, and now Boris Karloff was on board, and they hit another snafu. Snafu, which is actually army jargon for, and I found this out from, of course, from Doc Blaylock. Situation normal, all all effed up. The F word they usually use is a four-letter word that rhymes with truck, but some people have called it all fouled up. But basically, it's basically a goof. Basically, the adapted screenplay only lasted 12 minutes, and they needed to pad it. But Jones wanted this to be a holiday classic, and didn't want to fluff it up for timing's sake. So he found a character that played a smaller role in the book to play a larger role in the movie. Max the dog. Quote, if you extend in parentheses the story, you find somebody in there that's important, like the dog turned out to be. The most important character to me, old Max, unquote, Jones explained. Quote, because Max represented every boy's dog. In parentheses, Max represents the audience, unquote. Jones continued, quote, he's a slave, but he has to do what he's told. But he also is observing that he obviously doesn't like it. And so he plays a very important part to me all through the picture, unquote. As an animator, Jones enjoyed using Max to react to the Grinch, and for visual gags. But for the story, Max gave the audience a voice while giving the Grinch one character to really care about, and perhaps making Max the reason why the Grinch's heart grew 3 sizes that day. So now what I'm going to do, because obviously the tis the season for tunes is more or less over. I'm going to go over real quick the some of the programming over the next couple of days here on MeTV Tunes to kind of pad the story a little bit. Just to tell, for those of you who may have MeTV Tunes or want to check out some of the Christmas specials. So starting tomorrow at, of course, 3 Eastern, noon Pacific. Let me go to the schedule here. They'll be showing. They'll be showing. Some of the Christmas specials. Be having like little marathons tomorrow and Thursday. So tomorrow, starting at 3 Pacific, or 3 Eastern, noon Pacific, you'll have a Flintstones Christmas starting at 3 Eastern, 12 Pacific, where Fred fills in for Santa after Santa hurt his ankle on the roof. Then at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 Pacific, a Flintstones Family Christmas, where Fred and Wilma adopt a young orphan. And then at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, the Scooby-Doo Where Are You episode That's No Ghost, which a ski trip turned spooky for the gang. Then at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 Pacific, the Jetsons Christmas Carol, basically the Jetsons adaptation of A Christmas Carol. Then at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 Pacific, Christmas Flintstones, the Flintstone episode from the 5th season, very similar in theme to a Flintstone Christmas, in which Fred fills in for Santa. This time Santa gets sick and his two elves recruit Fred to fill in for him while Santa is sick. Then coming up at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific, you have a Miser Brothers Christmas, which, from what I found out, is another Rankin Bass special, believe it or not. Santa Claus and the mischievous brothers, Heat and Snow Miser, are the targets of Yuletide treachery. And I did watch a portion of this the other day, too. So then the story of Santa Claus, coming up at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, in which Special presents an origin story of Santa Claus, kind of slightly different from the one that we're used to, Santa Claus coming to town. And then at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific, Cartoon All-Stars will be having a special Christmas Cartoon All-Stars 3-hour block going. And then you got Tune In With Me at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific, to Christmas Eve Chaos. Then, moving on to Christmas Day. What can you find on Christmas Day on MeTV Tunes in celebration of the holidays? Character filling in for Santa is the most common Christmas special for a show. Well, at least in the Flintstones universe. And it's funny because I think I mentioned when I messaged you earlier, Metal, I'm going to probably invite you on tomorrow. I'm going to try to do a panel show tomorrow to talk about some of the Christmas specials. I'll have a chance to maybe continue our discussion from your show last night. So I'll send you the invite, hopefully. Well, I will, but hopefully you'll choose to join me. And anyways, then we get to Thursday. Well, actually, it's going to get started even pretty early, as 6 a.m. Eastern, 3 a.m. Pacific. Captain Planet and Planeteers do their episode, The Ghost of Porcaloin Past, where in essence, Hoggish, they're kind of doing the Scrooge, probably won't. I plan to be busy. Well, I'll send you the link anyways. If you want to drop in, you can. I'll prepare for shows either way, whether I can get people to come on or not. I figured some people might be busy, but just in the event, some people might want to join in. But anyways, so The Ghost of Porcelain Pass is Captain Planet's adaptation of A Christmas Carol with Hoggish Greeley in the role of Ebenezer Scrooge. And there's another common Christmas theme as the adaptations of A Christmas Carol. Then Police Academy, the animated series, Santa with a Badge. Mahoney and the Gang have to clear kids of jewelry theft. Christmas marks the spot. The Ghostbusters must save Christmas. Then that's at 7 a.m. East. So Santa with a Badge from Police Academy, the animated series, from 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 a.m. Pacific. Real Ghostbusters, 7 a.m. Eastern, 4 a.m. Pacific. And mark the spot. And then at 7:30 a.m. Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, Kylo's holiday movie. Kylo explores Christmas traditions around the world. And then at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, you have the Bugs Bunny and Friends episode, A Very Bugs Bunny Christmas, in which you, of course, have Bugs Bunny's Christmas Carol and The Fright Before Christmas. Then at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, you have A Christmas Carol, an adaptation of A Christmas Carol, an old bitter miser. So I think this is the one from 1971. This is the one you and I were talking about last night. The one that was probably the closest to the actual novel, right? The actual story. You know, probably the one from 1971. You know, the kind of the more darker toned adaptation in animated form. Right. At least for Hanna-Barbera, anyhow, even Johnny Bravo did did later on. And then at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, 7:30 a.m. Pacific, Little Rascals Christmas special. The Little Rascals try to raise money to get Spanky's mom a new coat for Christmas. Now that was, of course, from the 1980s Little Rascals cartoon. That was at a time when they were adapting some of popular comedies at the time into cartoons. You had, of course, the Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, and Little Rascals shows going on at the time. And then at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, Yogi Bear's All-Star Comedy Christmas Caper. Yogi poses as Santa in a department store where he tries to help a girl's Christmas dream come true. That was something I think I mentioned to you last night. Metal. And then at 11:30 a.m., and I believe this will be the final of the Christmas specials for the day and for the season. A Flintstones Christmas Carol. When Fred is cast as the star of Christmas Carol, he starts acting like Scrooge in real life. So another adaptation of A Christmas Carol. So that's what to look forward to. For those who may have MeTV tunes over the next couple of days, for tomorrow and Thursday, if you guys want to catch some of those classic cartoons. Of course, we'll be talking about some of those as well as some others tomorrow night's show. I hope to have some people. Maybe I'll invite some people on to see if they want to come and chime in on some stuff. Metal being one of them, I hope. But anyways, so that's all we got for that particular story. So now, now we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next story. Head over to Bounding into Comics. See, and just a friendly reminder to everybody, of course. If you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Oh, with that being said, let me just, okay, Bounding into Comics here. Here's the story we're going to be looking at here. Captain Atom reportedly recruited for Creature Commandos Season 2, and he might be the actual DC Comics version. So, article by Spencer Baculli published earlier today. So, let's take a look here. So, with Superman having stuck its landing and Supergirl currently in post production, a new report suggests James Gunn is starting to prepare for the Creature Commandos' next DCU sortie, beginning with the recruitment of Captain Atom to the animated series Season 2 cast. And it might sound crazy, but there exists a non-zero possibility that he'll be the actual comic book incarnation of the Charlton Comics transplant. Word of the nuclear-powered, delistilled coated U.S. Air Force officers' deployment to Creature Commandos front lines, but first broken via a December 21st exclusive from Nexus Point News, who reported that, per their alleged insider sources, quote, one major character that will be featured in this upcoming season is Captain Atom, unquote. Unfortunately for the curious, said sources were unable to provide much in the way of details, telling the outlet, quote, the nature of his role is currently unknown, but he is set to be a recurring character in this upcoming season. Quote, they were able to reveal that, in quote here, quote, the version that will appear in the series is Nathaniel Adam. Is Nathaniel Adam iteration of the character, debuted in brackets DC's Captain Atom #1 in 1987, and was created by Cary Bates and Pat Broderick. Here's where things get interesting. As though Nexus Point News reporting has yet to receive any official confirmation, the next day saw Gunn excitedly sharing the Jorge Corona and Sarah Stern illustrated main cover to the recent DCKO Superman vs. Captain Atom Volume 1 one shot. Volume 1 #1 one shot. Now, while many a tweet, an article will be written about the tinfoil hat charged implications that can be read into Gunn's sharing of the cover, especially in regards to the Superman sequel, Man of Tomorrow. The same treatment will unlikely be given the book's actual contents, which actually make the social media post all the more interesting. As the inspiration for Watchmen's Dr. Manhattan explains, to the Man of Steel in the final moments of their matchup, all the while actively staring down the possibility whenever Captain Atom is forcibly overloaded with energy to the point of going nuclear. The subsequent explosion will also result in his forced and uncontrolled teleportation to a random location. And far from just locations within his current universal surroundings, Captain Atom is liable to pop up anywhere across the entirety of time and space, with past destinations, including a potential future where the heroes failed to stop the events of Infinite Crisis, and the universe of DC's Wildstorm imprint. Unfortunately for the good captain, the universe threatening stakes of the ongoing DC KO event has him facing a Superman with his head in the game, and thus one who ultimately chooses to go for a decisive victory by nuclear reaction. And to bring it back to the DCU, as of this article's publication, Captain Atom um, has not yet rematerialized, nor he been explicitly confirmed um, for any post DC KO appearances. His person even being absent from a solicited cover for Justice League Unlimited, Volume 1, Number 17. To be fair, all of this could turn out to be a complete nothing burger. After all, not only is Gunn a noted comic book reader, there also still exists the possibility of Captain Atom could pop back up between now and the official reveal of Creature Commandos Season 2. Until then, it's a fun thing to speculate about, and on the very, very minuscule off chance that we happen to be onto something, hey, that'd be pretty cool. Anyway, so there we go. That's the two stories we're going to go over tonight. So let's see. Now we're at 33 minutes here. I guess I can look to see. Oh, great. Anyways. Anyways, so let me go ahead and take a peek to see if there's anything else to get here. Yeah, so I think we've had enough of that. All right. So, anyways, let me see. So yeah. So a bit of a heads up tomorrow. As I said, I was going to initially I was going to plan on doing it myself, but I think I'll also invite some people on tomorrow. I'll send out and if people want to send out the links tomorrow, um, to some people, to some guests, they want to join me to talk about some classic Christmas specials. They can. If not, I understand. But I'll do it anyways. Let's see now. Of course, on tomorrow's show, what we'll be doing, of course, we'll be looking at, be primarily, talking about, some of my favorite Christmas specials, including, of course, a lot of the Hanna-Barbera stuff. Give my impressions, and if anybody else chooses to be with me, we might have some pretty good discussions to go about with those. Where are we at on time here? 37 minutes. All right. So I guess we can kind of start the wrestling wrap up a little early then. There doesn't seem to be much else here. So on last night's Monday Night Raw, so go there first. Last night's Monday Night Raw, coming from the Van Andel Center in Grand Rapids, Michigan, on Netflix, with, of course, Michael Cole and Corey Graves on commentary. Opening match was a women's singles match, pitting one half of the W Women's Tag Team Champions, Asuka of the Kabuki Warriors, taking on Rhea Ripley, who ended up losing to Asuka. Like, as the match was coming to an end, Kairi Sane, who was out there with Asuka, was interfering in the match, was kind of interfering with getting Rhea Ripley's attention while the ref's attention was on Asuka, only for Kairi Sane, who had not been medically cleared, coming after taking the insane elbow from Kairi Sane the week before, with, of course, kinesio tape on her back. She came out to try to prevent Kairi Sane's interference, only to get knocked down, get beat down because get thrown back first onto the apron. This led to enough of a distraction for Asuka to get the roll up on Rhea Ripley, with a handful of tights. Of course, this further, builds some of the feuds going on between the Kabuki Warriors and their top three contenders right now of Ripley and Sky on Raw, and then on SmackDown, of course, former champs Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair, as well as probably the newest contenders to the titles, and who basically did get a non-title win on this past Friday night SmackDown. To lay claim to their title shot, Nia Jax and Lash Legend. I know you do. You mentioned that to me before. Then we had in a singles match, NXT talent Javon Evans got the win on Rayo Americano of the Americano group, who had, of course, Bravo and El Grande Americano in his corner. Being able to get the quick pin on him and get out of the ring before the other Americanos could come in and beat him down. As Javon Evans looking like somebody that WWE is going to be looking to push in the future. He's somebody that's looked at having, being somebody having a future with the company, as it were. Then in another women's match, Bayley, who had Lyra Valkyria in her corner, defeated Roxanne Perez, who had Liv Morgan in her corner. As during the match, Liv Morgan, who would interfere in the match to give Roxanne Perez the advantage, only for Raquel Rodriguez to come out and say, "Hey, what's up here?" Causing the distraction to Roxanne, but also during after their interference had laid Bayley up in the ropes, Lyra Valkyria came along and slapped Bayley in the face and really charged her up to help get the win on Roxanne Perez. Getting the pin after the distraction from Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan had backfired. And then in the main event, the Vision members Bronson Reed and Austin Theory, the latest member of the latest addition to the Vision, defeated CM Punk and Rey Mysterio after Theory had executed a curb stomp onto Rey. A couple other things that happened during the night too, as a confrontation between former Women's Intercontinental Champion Becky Lynch and the woman who just recently beat her, Maxine Dupree, happened, in which Dupree was able to lock in the ankle lock on Lynch after a bit of a promo battle between the two, in which Maxine Dupree had called into question of whether or not Becky Lynch was maybe past her prime. Hey there, it's Zozo, which led to the confrontation. And then later on, you had, as Gunther had come out to brag about retiring John Cena. Hey, Fitzozo. Getting him to tap and all that. CM Punk came out to confront him, setting up a potential matchup between those two for CM Punk's world title. I forgot all about wrestling since I stopped watching when I was 9. That's when they took it off network television. There's still people who watch it. Anyways, so that's all that happened on last night's Monday Night Raw. Now to look ahead to tonight's NXT show. As on tonight's NXT coming from the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, Florida, airing on the CW. Opening match we'll see in a women's singles match. Izzy Dame of the Culling will be taking on Lola Vice. Then you'll have a couple of semifinal matches to determine the number one contender to the WWE Speed Championship, as Eli Knight will be taking on Tavion Heights, and Andre Chase will be taking on Lexis King. Lexis King, the former Heritage Cup champion. And in a mixed tag team Chris's Chaos match, you have Ariana Grace and current Heritage Cup and TNA International Champion Channing Lorenzo taking on the team of Shiloh Hill and Skylar Ray. In the main event, we'll see in a match for the WWE Women's United States title, Chelsea Green with Alba Fire and Ethan Page in her corner will be defending against Sol Ruka. In tonight's NXT action. I forgot about Rey Mysterio. All right. So with that being said, that's all we got for now. Yeah, and as I told you guys last night, I'll probably, of course, talk more about it. Probably give the full updated card tomorrow night, and talk also about when we talk about what's going down on tomorrow night's. Like tomorrow, aside from, of course, talking about some of the anime Christmas specials of the past, we'll also get you caught up on the upcoming weekend's wrestling action, as AEW will be having its World's End pay-per-view Saturday. We'll be looking at what will be going down on Dynamite and Collision, leading up to the World's End pay-per-view. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and move on to, with today being, of course, Tuesday, December the 23rd. Why don't we go ahead and take a look? Go ahead and take a look back at this day in Niche history. So, and also, of course, tomorrow night we'll be doing a special for the This Day in Niche History segment. We'll be doing a special Christmas in Niche History segment, which will be, much like we do with the weekend days, we'll be looking at stuff that happened on both Christmas Eve and Christmas Day in Niche History. So, with that, let me go ahead and get started here. So the first off, we're going to head back 60 years ago today, as on this date, 60 years ago today, actually, what am I doing here? Kind of goofing up, that's what I'm doing. All right, anyways, on this date, 60 years ago today, back in 1965, on this date back in 1965, the 35th issue of Archie's Gallon Pals went on sale on this date back in 1965. It was a quarterly title that sold for 25 cents with 64 pages. Featured a bunch of Archie stories, along with, of course, Becky and Veronica, Betty's story in there. So, on this date, back in 1965, 60 years ago today, the 35th issue of Archie's Gallon Pals went on sale on this date back in 1965. All right, so there we go with that one. Now getting ready to move on to the next. We move ahead to the year 1985, 40 years ago today. And on this date, back in 1985, voice actress Margie Hines passed away at the age of 76 on this date back in 1985. Now, Margie Hines, where she was the original voice of Betty Boop, served where she served from 1930 to 1932, and then again from 1938 to 39, before voicing Olive Oyl and Sweet Pea and Popeye the Sailor cartoons from 1938 to 1944. Of course, in those roles, she took that role over from Mae Quetzal, when Fleischer had moved down to when Fleischer had initially moved down to Florida. Mae Quetzal wanted to stay behind to start a family in New York, but Margie Hines, they picked Margie Hines, who at the time when she first started voicing Olive Oyl and Sweet Pea was also the wife of Jack Mercer, the voice of Popeye. She also provided voices for Fleischer animated films, Gulliver's Travels, and Mr. Bug Goes to Washington. So on this date, 40 years ago today, Margie Hines passed away at the age of 76. The voice of Betty Boop and Olive Oyl, the second voice of Olive Oyl. I love Archie's Pals and Gals. Might be my favorite book from them. A lot of character first appearances were in that series before their own books, like Josie. And of course, Josie was made into a cartoon by Hanna-Barbera. Josie and the Pussycats. Let's see. Of course, Archie had his own cartoon adaptation back in the late 60s as well. Had 2 or 3 of them in the 60s and early 70s through Filmation, along with, of course, Sabrina from Harvey. All right, so now that's from 2020. So now, of course, moving along to the year 2000, 25 years ago today. On this date, 25 years ago today, ECW held its Holiday Hell pay-per-view event in the ECW Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The main event saw in a 3-way match for the ECW World Heavyweight title. Steve Corino retained over Justin Credible and the Sandman. The best 2 out of 3 falls match, the unholy alliance of Yoshihiro Tajiri and Mikey Whipwreck, the FBI of Little Guido and Tony Mamaluke. Then you also had of course, Danny Doring and Roadkill retained the ECW World Tag Team titles over the Baldys of Angel and DeVito. And then the night opened up with Chili Willy and the Blue Boy, a.k.a. the Blue Meanie, going to a no contest. Oh, there you go. That. Now, finally, as we move ahead to the year 2020, on this date in the year 2020, as soon as I pull that up, so in the year 2020, David Productions, Strike Witches, Road to Berlin completed its run on Japanese television. On this date, back in the year 2020, 5 years ago today, David Productions, Strike Witches, Road to Berlin, part of the Strike Witches franchise, completed its run on Japanese television on this date back in 2020. So with that being said, I thank everybody for being here tonight. Clear this out. Of course, we'll be back here tomorrow, a special Christmas Eve edition tomorrow. Now, whether or not I do it on my own or with guests, we'll just wait and see. But I do plan on inviting some people on to join me. Whether or not they choose to accept, that'll be up to them. But tomorrow we're gonna talk about some of the classic Christmas specials. We'll talk about the Rankin Bass specials, the Hanna Barbera specials. Let's see some others like Santa and the Three Bears, Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol, among others. Um, hopefully we can get some good conversations going. We'll also have a special edition of this day in Nietzsche history, which will have Christmas in Nietzsche history, which will be much like we do with the weekends. We'll be, making sure that both days are represented. Probably 2 each. So, I already have some ideas. I assume most people will be busy. Yeah, I know that, and that's why I was originally not going to, but not all, but most. I get that. I get that, Metal. Wouldn't hurt to try though. If people wanted to join me. I thought you might have wanted to join me because we were having such a good conversation about it last. But you said you might be busy too. Again, I'm just gonna send the link out with a note saying if they have time and they would like to, they're welcome to come join me to talk about it. If they do, great. If they don't, I'm not expecting them per se to show. I'll still give them a few minutes to show up to see if they do. But the whole idea is I think it be a good time to so wouldn't hurt to at least ask. People want to come and join me, that's fine. If not, I understand. They probably have families. Some people do, some people don't. But we'll just, as I said, we'll just wait and see. And also, of course, this Sunday, I'll be joined by Apex from Apex Comics. We'll be looking back at comics that went on sale from July 1940. This week we'll be focusing in on comics that went on sale from Fox Feature Publication, Fox Feature Syndicate. So haven't looked to see which particular stories we'll be doing yet there. And of course, tomorrow night we'll also look ahead to all the action that's going to be coming up this weekend. And Russell will be looking ahead to tomorrow night's Dynamite Collision and the Saturday's World's End pay-per-view. And then of course we won't be here Thursday or Friday, but I do hope you guys will maybe take the time, if you have MeTV Tunes, we'll have a chance to check some of those Christmas specials out one last time before things wrap up for the year. Anyways, with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. With or without guests, I plan on talking about of course, the classic animated Christmas specials. So hopefully we'll see what happens there. So with that, I thank everybody for being here. And I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.